4 weeks and 3 days ago, I was diagnosed as having had a stroke. My goodness, just imagine how that feels. So how did it all happen? Well, I was speaking at a conference. I was the opening and closing keynote speaker for a conference hosted by Siemens, the engineering organization, and it was about fire safety in schools. Everything was going fine. I did the opening keynote. It was well received. We broke for lunch, had a great lunch, chatting to loads of people. Just preparing my closing keynote, when all of a sudden I couldn't use my keyboard, I couldn't use my Mac, I couldn't even see where the keys were, I didn't know what a key was. It was such a strange experience. I made a phone call. I think I phoned my partner, Alison, who was working in the office. She managed to speak to Siemens at the security guys, who whizzed around, and within a few moments they'd sort of done some tests, and they bundled me into their minibus and drove me to the local hospital. That's Frimley Park, which was in Surrey. The Siemens guys were sort of saying I had to be seen, and very shortly afterwards I was with a consultant in the accident and emergency area, and I guess I was about half an hour, maybe 3/4 of an hour later, I had an MRI scan, and the consultant said, "You've had a stroke. We know exactly what it is. You've had a bleed. It's on the left-hand side of your brain." Crikey. And at that moment, I guess I started extrapolating what was going to happen to me. And I thought, that's it. Now, at the time, I was going slightly colorblind. I couldn't put my words together properly. And over the next 4 or 5 hours, it sort of got worse. And I became supreme dyslexic. I certainly wasn't able to speak like this at all. I couldn't really do anything. So I was in hospital. I was in hospital for, 2 weeks. And for the first couple of days, I was plugged into various machines, and nurses were coming around taking my blood and doing all sorts of things on a pretty well hourly basis. So at that moment, I thought, well, this is how it's going to be. This is going to be a nightmare. So I guess the journey then was one of, I'm not going to let this hold me back. I've got to get myself out of all of this. So although I couldn't see colour and I was bumping into things because so much of my peripheral vision had gone, it was like looking through a little tiny, tight letterbox. It was a very strange thing. I was having to move my head around all over the place. And I couldn't tell colour. I couldn't do anything at all. It was such a weird experience. I guess things started coming back over I guess, half-day intervals. So that on the 4th day, I got myself dressed, got myself out of bed, and although the hospital's pretty, well, they didn't know about this at the time, I walked off to Siemens headquarters. It was a journey of maybe, I don't know, 600-700 meters, so it's not very difficult, but I had to cross a few roads, and I wanted to see that I could actually do this. And getting to Siemens, I managed to speak to the receptionists and say I'd like to speak to the security guys who looked after me, and all I wanted to do was to say thank you, but actually what I wanted to do is to prove that I could walk around and talk to people and make myself understood and heard, and apparently it wasn't that bad. So I then got back to Frimley Park, got back into bed, undressed, and I was really comfortable that I was going to be able to overcome this. And throughout, I was working so hard at trying to find out how can I improve. Do you know, I have to say, it was the most extraordinary thing to happen, to see how fast and what one can do to make the brain regain itself. I guess it's a little bit like if you have a mobile phone and you drop it into water, then at that moment the mobile phone might stop, and depending how you dry it out, it could work or it couldn't work. Now, with a phone, you'd probably put it into some rice to get all the moisture absorbed. You can't do that with a brain. I couldn't pile the rice in, so it has to gradually absorb and get itself re-energized. But we can do stuff to seem to help that. So the first stage was I was completely dyslexic, and it was so strange. And I was trying to explain to somebody what it was like. And here's my explanation: imagine you get a great big large bowl of Coca-Cola and it's fizzing away, and into that bowl you place some letters, and those letters, could form words. And when you look through this Coca-Cola at the letters, they're all fizzing around and all moving, and that's what it was like. It's like everything was moving and buzzing around, and I knew there were words there, but I just couldn't make them out. And gradually that sort of started subsiding. It was about, I don't know, 10 days ago that I could sort of read. although it was pretty difficult. I had to put my finger on each letter, and it's very hard when you're putting a word together by putting your finger on each letter to sort of make coherent sense. Being able to read properly happened about, I don't know, 5 days ago. I have to tell you, National Health Service and the rehab work they were doing has been phenomenal. So, why am I making this short video? First of all, I wanted to say thank you to all the people who helped me. That's the guys at Frimley Park Hospital. Amazingly, the guys at Siemens, who acted so fast that without them, I don't think I'd be able to do this. Well, actually, I don't know. But I doubt if I'd be able to do this. I'd like to say a supreme thanks to Matthew at Institute of Fire Engineers, who coordinated a whole load of stuff, and he stayed with me whilst I was in such shock, and I think I was probably very tearful, saying it'll be okay and let's see what we can do, and just keeping me sort of engaged. Of course, I'd like to say thank you to Alison. Of course, I want to say thank you to my office and the guys at my office who, well, they were probably pleased actually that I was going to be out of action for a while. I'd like to say thank you to everybody who worked with me. And more importantly, I'm going to say thank you to the National Health, because believe it or not, they were just amazing. I've been having 3 to 4 hours of therapy per day. So yesterday I went into the office, everything seemed fine. Today I'm going to go into the office and meet after this. The time now is 10:30. The therapists are coming round in very shortly. After a couple of hours, I'll get myself into proper working clothes and I'll nip into the office. And I'm really pleased because this has taught me so much. I would recommend this to anybody, to everybody, provided you know you're going to come out the other side. At the time, I didn't know. I was making some notes, and I asked Alison, my partner, to sort of make movies of me, and I think she was a bit embarrassed to do it because I was pretty naff. I couldn't talk properly. I couldn't do anything. But it just shows you that a stroke can be overcome. So, I don't know if there's been any use, but thank you. And good luck. And when you hear somebody having had a stroke, it's okay. But the big thing is, we've got to act really seriously fast. And then who knows? We can help other people. So, that's me, Marcus Orlowski, Bryanston Square. Thanks.